Hey, welcome everybody to Drunk Dudes in a Gun Room, man. As y'all see, I'm sporting the new gear, man. Our official sponsor, Operation Encore. I'm wearing their hat. Awesome, awesome. Can't say enough good stuff about those guys. You can check them out at operationencore.org. And as well, you can check out our radio station right here. Come listen to the best music in Gun Room Radio. All of the artists that are performing are within the military family. Their songs are authentic, and the music and the camaraderie is amazing. So I want you to come and listen. Have a great time. Check us out at gunroomradio.airtime.pro or on Facebook at Gunroom Radio. So we've got a great show today. So today I have got Rick and Ryan from Warriors Way Mindset. I was on their show a couple weeks ago or so. Awesome, awesome show, man. The way they produce everything is way better than mine, man. It looks a lot more professional. So without any further to do, let me bring them on so y'all can see how awesome their stuff is. Here we go. So what's going on, guys?
What a cool intro, Ryan. Is that your are we doing soundboards already? I like it. He's just showing off now, man.
Yeah, yeah, man.
I got you.
There we go, brother.
What a perfect way to start it, right?
Nailed it.
Absolutely, man. I'm surprised awesome. my dog didn't join in with that.
You can't make this shit up. She just starts barking whenever she feels like it.
Hey, I get it, man. I get it.
It happens. But,
yeah, awesome to see you, Don. I like that intro was also. It's actually I'm gonna see if we can get you to redo your part of the intro because it was like rock and roll, and then I need you like, "What's up? It's time for the best radio." Like I need you to go into like straight warrior mode when it's time.
Absolutely, man. I gotta redo that commercial, man. It was kind of thrown together, so I'm not exactly proud of it, but I had to do something to get the word out there.
No, it was good. It just I was waiting. It was like dun dun dun. I'm like, yeah, all right, here we go. And you're like, hey guys, check out the radio. And I was like, does this go to like some sort of like sexy talk radio? What just happened? This went from AC/DC to smooth jazz real quick.
It's the Gun Room Hub.
Yeah.
There you go.
I hope you guys like good music. I hope you do, because we got it.
That's awesome, man. Well, I don't know who wants to go first, but why don't y'all introduce yourselves and tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I'll kick us off, and then Ryan will jump in. I'll even probably introduce Ryan a little bit. My name is Rick. I'm the creator of the Warriors Way Mindset. What I've been able to do over the last handful of years is I've built programs that help people build up their mindset as far as especially working with men across the world. We've done women's group. We help women also, but right now the biggest mission is to help our guys out. And so what we've been doing is building an entire mindset, multiple programs. We've built tools. We've built we've got our coaches built out. We've got books. We're building a lot of content and a lot of things. We have podcasts now that's also running in the battlefield of the mind. And what we do and we specialize in doing is we go into hell. We focus on transformation, not information. And so we're not just saying watch our videos. We're not just saying read our content. We're saying we're going to come in and get you. And we do our best to make sure that we've gone through almost every battle that we've had to come up. And this is why we got our guys who are also served. One of the biggest things I do is I serve those who served. And Ryan is also one of my guys who's been one of those guys who he was, in his own shit when I met him. And I'm like, I'm coming to get you, bro. And so we've fought a lot of demons, broken curses, and we've also been going in and helping a lot of people do the same thing. And that includes everything from PTSD, suicide talk, addiction, depression, anxiety, you name it, we fucking killed them. And so that's what we're here to do, is to teach people that there's two kind of people. There's two, trained or untrained. And so what we do is we actually do the work to train people, not just treat symptoms.
That's awesome, man.
And then Ryan, this is one of my main dudes. This guy is he's actually been, I'm gonna give him a little praise before he jumps in. Ryan's been training to run groups now. He was a student to start off with. He's got natural leadership skill. He's been in the military, he's a corrections officer. So he's just got natural leadership. His growth has been so inspiring and helpful to so many of the guys. And his ability to be able to connect through the heart, he's a heart side warrior, has really helped a lot of guys who are struggling to almost have permission to be human again. And being as tough as he is and being able to connect in the heart is a very rare skill. And so I'm very honored to have him as one of my frontline guys who I can form the phalanx with.
So thanks, Rick. I appreciate that. Yeah. Rick, I found Rick on TikTok, and just like you said, I was in my own way. I had some curses that I need to be broke. I just couldn't see, uh, 1 foot in front of me. And with the training from the program and whatnot, I've grown to new heights. And like you said, man, I just love helping these guys out. And I can get into hell with them. I've seen the dark, and I just reach my hand out and I help pull them out. And it's all through the Warriors Way, using the tools that Rick has gave me. So it's pretty awesome. Thanks for having me here too.
Hey, no issue, man. I appreciate it. That's awesome, because I completely get it. Um, I've been in that situation where I've had to kind of pull myself out of it. Um, my family kind of got involved to kind of make me see the light, and it's tough, man, when you're doing it by yourself. It really is. And you see a lot of these groups on Facebook, and it's more of a, okay, I'm gonna check the block. Oh, I hope you're doing okay today. I did my check-in, and there's, even if you do talk to somebody and you help get them through that day, you didn't give them any tools to battle tomorrow. So yeah, I absolutely appreciate what you guys are doing, man. Um, why don't you guys go ahead and let's get into where the Warriors Way mindset started. How did this come about?
All right, so it's actually kind of interesting because it came from need, not greed. And I think it's interesting when people start talking about their purpose, like, and this is a big talk, especially I know you reach out to veterans a lot, and Ryan knows we got some vets in the team. Is that when you leave the military, it's no doubt and no question, it's one of the largest losses in your life, because we've talked about this at great length within the army ourselves. And so our guys are like, man, when you leave, your purpose, your missions, your support system, your job, your identity, like
Yeah.
everything that you are, all of the your what am I supposed to do with my day? What is my reason for even doing anything that I do? It's all gone instantaneously. And not to mention that, but not only is it all gone, everything that you are and do is now wrong.
Yeah.
Like, that's even more complicated. There is no like, okay, now we got to acclimate you back into being a civilian. We rip that out so that way you could be the most effective tool that you can use. But now we don't need that tool. You are now retired. And so now you're in, I call it like throwing a Spartan into market, like, they're like, hey, what do you do? I'm a blacksmith. You're like, okay. And what do you do? I'm a potter. You're like, okay. And I'm a dancer and I'm a painter. And you're like, these are all great. And like, well, what do you do, Don? And you're like, oh, oh, oh. And they're like, "How is this telling me, what do I do?" Like, they're like, I don't know why he's yelling. What do I do? I'm shutting down shop. I don't know what's happening. They don't know what to do with that. They have
Yeah,
no
you're right.
clue. And so it's really tough when your entire purpose has just been changed and what you are is now wrong, even though you sacrificed who you are to make sure others could be safe, or even be able to have the freedom to have the judgment to think you're wrong.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah,
think that's an interesting thing.
yeah, you're right, man. And I can relate to that because when I took this job down here where I'm at, I started out as a supervisor, and I remember one of the guys texting me saying, "Hey, where are you at?" And I responded back with, "I'm at the chow hall." And I guess he looked at the guy next to him. He said, "What the fuck is a chow hall?" The other guy goes, "I think he's in the lunchroom."
I don't think it's
So
called that. Is that called
yeah,
that?
I mean, and I'm like, man, and even like my time, when I give a time for something, I have to repeat myself twice because they don't know military time, and it's bad. It's habits, man. They're just tough to break,
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
you're right, and there is a language barrier, even within the maintenance world. I mean, a lot of these things that they call different items, I'm used to them referred to as a different name, and there's a hell of a learning curve, you know.
I just had this conversation with a guy, well, a group of guys the other day. I was like, look, some of the things that are holding us vets back is exactly that, the integration back into, you know, regular civilian society. And it's
Yeah,
like, we get stuck on, oh, well, I have to use military time because that's what I was taught. I have to use, all the military lingo and the verbiage because that's what I was taught. It's like, well, the civilians don't know any of that. And
yeah,
then we as veterans are going to get mad at them and frustrated at them because they don't know. It's like, well, you're just kind of setting yourself up for a failure because, you could just, you know, learn their language and come back into civilian world and then say the exact same thing, but with their words. They're going to understand it and we're not going to get upset. So we're holding ourselves back in a way by not integrating ourselves properly. And I get it. Like the military doesn't give us a damn thing to help us there.
no,
Like not at all. The VA still nothing. It's all way, way, way behind.
yeah,
So it's on us now to help ourselves and other vets to be like, hey, look, instead of using these words and this time and, whatever, that dress right, dress bullshit that we were just continuously pushed on us, like, slow down. It's not that serious. There's no enemies in front of us. What can we do now to help ourselves to, you know, integrate ourselves and feel accepted and normal? And that's where I had to like break it down for some of these guys. They're like, well, yeah, like it is on us. Like, and so we're the only ones that can change our thought process.
yeah. You're absolutely right, and that's one thing I've been preaching for a while is, as veterans, we have to police our own. We've always been good at telling the guy next to us whether he's ate up or whether he's squared away. There's no middle ground. After the conversation, where you stood, and the other problem that we have, and every training assessment that you go through in the military, they train you to fail. It's we're gonna put you in the most ridiculous situations and see how you respond when you fail. And it forces you create that um characteristic of I'm not gonna fail. I'm gonna push, mission accomplishment, so forth and so forth. And when you come to the civilian world and you have that mentality, you look at your boss as your chain of command and they give you a mission. They say, "Hey, we need you to go knock this out." And you go way above and beyond. Well, next thing you know, now you're an outcast because all your peers around you are like, "Oh, he's trying to take our job." And your boss is like, "Oh yeah, this guy's trying to get my job." You know? And like you said, uh, we don't know we don't even understand what we did wrong. We just were trying to accomplish the mission, man. And
Right.
yeah, that whole mentality, it's just completely different. So,
We go into great length on the word fail, and it's interesting that you said the word fail equals like bad, or even in that many cases death, or even a death of a friend.
mhm,
And so failure is not one of the options. You really don't. They want to put you through maximum extreme situations that you cannot fail, because if you do fail, either
mhm,
you die or people you care about are dead. Well, that's a big deal. That's a lot of
yeah,
pressure on that one. Then you come back to civilian life where, as a business owner or even working out, hitting failure is good. And if you're going to be a business owner, every day is riddled with failure. It's not
yeah,
about failing. It's just about adapting and learning how to handle the next thing. Failure is good. Even in the Warriors way, we'll have situations where people are like, oh shit, that's bad. I'm like, no, it just means there's something that we need to adapt to. So it's good. Like
yeah,
now we know we have to change that thing so we're stronger together. That's good. And people will I guess I say judge. They would judge it. This is bad. This is death. When really failure is the way forward. And in civilian life, it's different rules. Failure is winning, but we're
Yeah.
calling it something different, and this is where you have to retrain your mind to understand the difference, because failure is not death here.
Yeah.
You're just like, oh, well, I'll just try it differently. I'll just make a new mistake. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. I mean, I started, so when I got out of the military, I opened up my own business because I couldn't find work. I picked a great place to retire, just a horrible place to find a job. And, so I started my own trucking company. So my first 6 years of life after the military was just like you said. It was a day of failure every time trying to accomplish keeping food on the table and the business running and so forth. And so it was 6 years after I got out before I actually started integrating myself with the you know manufacturing world, the civilian world, whatever you want to call it. And yeah, it was definitely a culture shock, man, because I did take it personal if we didn't make production. You know, I did look at what everybody else's numbers were and make damn sure that I wasn't the last place guy. And I think that type A personality, it does come from the military because that's how you look at things. You don't want to be that bottom guy. You don't want to be the weakest link. And it's a struggle, man. So I definitely seen it more when I integrated with the civilian world than I did when I owned my own business. But when you transition from the military and go straight into the civilian world, I do understand now why that is the most dangerous time for suicide, because man, the stress that's on you is ridiculous. It really is. You are literally learning everything all over again without a coach and without somebody to teach you. At least in the army, you had the drill sergeant that, put a little bit of pain on you when you screwed up, so you knew what was right and wrong. Well, now you don't know what's right or wrong until you either get promoted or fired.
Yeah, and that's where, like, through the military, like we were, like you're saying, we were taught to go above and beyond because that's how we got the promotion. That's how
Yeah,
we got those, like, those advanced schools, or the accolades, and maybe even like the 4-day weekend pass, like whatever it is. Like, oh well, you did awesome, private, whatever, specialist, so on and so forth. Like, hey, you know, go take your weekend pass. Everybody else is working, you know, whatever they're doing, drill or whatever it is. So it's like, yeah, of course we're gonna push ourselves because that's how we got cool shit. That's
yeah,
how we got, like, that's how I got canine school, was because I went above and beyond.
yeah,
And
man.
the sergeant major was like, whoa, cool, man. Like, you just did the warfighter competition. Like, what do you want? I was like, what do you mean, what do I want? Like, what do you want? Like, anything, name a school. I was like, any school? Like, yeah. I was like, canine school now. Like, yeah, absolutely. They're like, sure, sign me up. And they did. And I was like, wow. And that,
Yeah, man.
that right there sets a belief system for throughout life until you, like you said, until you get into the civilian world, and it's shut down for doing that extra mile. It's
Yep.
unbelievable.
We're gonna have to come back to that one because that's a topic I am definitely interested in, man. I'm a huge working dog fan. I love dogs, and I believe that they serve a purpose, and that they're a working purpose. And when you integrate that with your dog, man, the relationship will be so much better because they feel reward quite frequently. So, yeah, we'll definitely hit up on that school, man, because that's a
Yeah,
that's a
sure.
good that's definitely a good topic, man.
Yeah, absolutely. It was one of the best times in the military for me.
Yeah. How you were in 17 years, correct?
Yes, so I did like, see, 6 years active duty with a deployment to Iraq, and then I got out, joined the reserve shortly after, and then I got up to about 17 years altogether. And
Okay.
so you get into one of those units that kind of crushes your soul a little bit, and you get out, and that was tough for me because I didn't want to. I wanted to finish the 20, but
Yeah.
when you get shit on left and right, it's like, all right, well, time to move on, or whatever. So
Yeah, I
But
boy, I can relate, man. I credit me retiring from the military due to shitty units because I was going to get out of the army. I was young and I wanted to have a life that didn't require me to do push-ups and run around and so forth. And that was just me being young and not mature yet. And I went to Fort Bliss, and it was such a shithole, man. I mean, the leadership was even horrible, and I had a choice. I could either stay at Fort Bliss for an extra 18 months, or I could reenlist in 8 and leave. I chose reenlistment. I went to Germany just to get the hell out of there, and that
yeah,
that path changed my whole future. I mean, I went to a mechanized infantry. I finally discovered what leadership really is. Um, I went into special ops from there, and I discovered how that side of the life was, and the army and the military became a much better place for me. And I'm a firm believer that, you know, no matter what your past is, I don't care what it is. It doesn't matter. There should be no regrets because that path that you walked, you were put there and put on there to get to a destination. And this, not gonna call it an aha moment, but I think God kinda opened my eyes, here just recently, and, I was headed to a veteran event. There was a musician that was playing. I was gonna live stream it and help get him some notoriety for him, and, the day or 2 before that, Operation Encore reached out and said, "Hey, we wanna sponsor," and then another place reached out to me and asked me to be on it, and I was like, "Man, I think this is God telling me this was where you're supposed to be," and any of those events in my past, the good or the bad, could change that, you know, and I think at some point, that aha moment hits you and you say, "Oh, so that's why all these things happen to put me here." So, you got out at 17 for a reason,
yeah,
that you may not have known it yet, you may not see it yet, but, you know, you stayed in 3 more years that could alter that path, and
absolutely.
maybe 3 more years would have not have put you in contact with Rick, you know?
Yeah,
A
absolutely.
and look at the great things and the people that you've helped now. So, I think at the end of the day, you always have to look forward and not look behind, but appreciate what was behind you, the good and the bad. Because if you don't have both, you can't have either or, you know?
Yeah,
You can't have good without bad, and you can't have bad without good. So, otherwise, it's just an average day.
right.
And
Yeah,
so I
that's what I said. One of the things, like, I told Rick, I kind of came up with this was for a long time ago. The hell makes you humble.
It does.
You know,
You are
you
that's a
go,
good saying, brother. Yep.
you go through a lot of shit, and if you come out of it, it'll humble you real real fucking quick.
Yep.
I mean, whether it's your own darkness, a deployment, or shitty work environment. If you come out on top, man, be humble about it. Is
Yeah.
learn from it, grow from it, and you know it'll take you to new heights.
Yeah,
As long as you
I
put one
agree,
foot in
man.
front and then forward, keep moving
What
forward.
what's the old saying? If you wanna hear God laugh, tell him you have a plan, you
Yeah,
know?
That's everything. That's life, dude.
It is, man.
I see people thinking life's going to go according to their rules, like we have any idea. Speaking of any idea, I want to go back to the acceptance thing. When you said you guys get out, I kind of want to. I had a little bit of a thought when you guys were talking about that, and it's funny that ironic funny that when you guys will get out, you're like you said, like military time and got to be done this way. And here's how I'm going to go to work and I'm going to be the best of the best. And I'm going to do all these things. And you get out and you wonder why nobody accepts you guys. Why are they not doing a time right? Why are they not dressing appropriately? Why can't they keep up with me? What's wrong with why can't they accept me? Like, what is going on here? I'm kicking butt. I'm not trying to take your job. I'm just trying to do a good job.
Yeah.
Why can't they accept me? Why can't they accept me? Why can't they accept me? And I think that the real training would be the other way around is why can't you accept just being okay with you instead of having to try and prove yourself above and beyond? But then it's not on them to accept you. It's on you to accept everyone else. And that's where the real training comes in, is this is where they are right now. And that's as far, they don't have training on this. And we had to talk about this
Right.
with our guys, is where they're like, why aren't they doing it this way? And why aren't they doing this way? They're like, I think you guys need to remember that there's a lot more civilians than there are soldiers.
Yep.
Like they're not the weird ones, because it's not your, I think it was even Ty who said it's common sense, man. When the military, they do this, it's just common sense. And we're like, how many people didn't go through that common sense?
Yeah.
A lot more weren't in it. And
yeah,
so
you are absolutely right.
is it on them to accept you, or on you to learn to accept them? Who's more trained?
Yeah, you are absolutely right. And I never thought about it until you put it that way. But it one thing I always told my soldiers, as a leader, it is not the soldier's responsibility to change the way he learns to adapt to my leadership style. As the leader, it's my job to change my leadership style to adapt to the soldier. That comes with knowing your soldier. And when we walked away from the military, I did it, and I didn't even realize this until you said this. But um, when I went into this, I went in with the military leadership, and when it didn't respond well, I didn't get the desired effect. I was baffled, and I think I kind of always forgot that I'm supposed to change myself to react to them. But now I have to change myself to a situation that I don't understand to react to them.
It's a different leadership type.
It
Your
is.
leadership is still correct, but you're no longer needed for that warrior type. But your leadership is still needed. It's just adapted to the current situation. So you used to be a leader of, like soldiers. Well, now how do you lead musicians? How do
Yep.
you lead, merchants? How do you lead promoters? You're still doing leadership, but you can't be like, bark, go, order, demand. Like, it doesn't work like that. Now it's going to be like, well, what do you need? Because the service industry will go the other way around. And this is where you serve by serving. Like, I actually I'm here to serve you. And this is why, even in the Warrior's Way, Ryan will see often, like, I don't come in going like, all right, guys, welcome to my motherfucking show. I'm like, no, what do you need? How can I serve you? How can I
Yeah.
have your back? What do I have to do to get you strong, even stronger than me, if that's what it takes? Let's do that. Because
That's exactly how
if
it
Ryan's
happened when I
somebody
came
I'm
on.
training, if I'm training Ryan, it does me no service at all to make him weaker than me so I can be the man, because he guards my six. What benefit is it to me to make him weaker so I feel better when he's the guy who protects me?
Yeah.
And I think I want him twice as strong as me. I want him able to handle way more than me, because then I know I'm covered from that side.
Yeah.
And this is good leadership. And I think that's where you shifted over to where, like, well, it was me telling you how to do it, and that was the right way. But now it's, how do I serve so we can do it better? And it's different. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. You tell me your
No,
opinion.
no, you are right. And along with that comes having to adapt on the fly and learn the motivators, because people laugh at me, but I tell them stories, man. I'm like, I've had employees that just blew me off and didn't do what they're supposed to do, and then they got to go home. I said, man, that shit would never fly in the military. I said, I'd have your ass out here till 2 o'clock in the morning until you got it right.
Low crawling through the mud.
Yep, I only got to give you 4 hours of sleep. And people are just looking at me like, "What the hell are you talking about?" No, yeah, you control people's lives. Yeah,
And they're like, what the fuck is this guy's problem?
yeah, yeah, man, that's exactly the response you get, man. It's a challenge, man, but I think at the end of the road, you become stronger for it, you know?
Well, you get to choose, and I think that's kind of where we come in. Is if you understand that there's a choice and there's a purpose and a belonging for you, you're not fucked up, you're not alone, you're not broken, you're just trained, and then you are left alone. But it's the ironic thing is that you're only as alone as you believe you are, because you just didn't know where to look. But there's a whole bunch of people in the same exact scenario, all looking for each other and don't know where to go.
Yeah.
And I think that's why people like you and people like us and the people like you've got your network of people who are like, no, no, no. Like we've got our own network of people who work with veterans also. We're like, we gotta unify this thing. We
Yep.
gotta pull it together. I got other guys too who I can't wait to introduce you to who are all on this mission where our veterans are all just they feel like they're put on islands. And
Yeah.
technically inside here, they are, but they're all looking to put these islands together to go, no, if we put our islands together, it's like this amazing community.
Yeah.
And one thing that makes it beautiful is each person actually has a purpose and a belonging in this community. And it doesn't matter how frivolous it would be by somebody else's judgment. How important is music when you're on the battlefield?
Yeah. I mean,
How important, Donald? If you're
it's
running in the
it's your
battlefield,
escape.
do you need music at the moment?
Not at the time of the battle, but you need that escape
But
when the
here,
battle's over.
here in community though, it changes our lives.
Yeah.
In community now, when we're no longer in conflict and we need each other more, a song can connect us beyond all things. It can
Yeah.
come in through the heart, come in through the soul. And so when we're here, you're extremely needed. But we're over there, which we're not over there anymore. Well, we didn't
Yeah.
need it as much then. It was a lower priority, but now it
Right.
becomes vital because
Yeah.
we're not there anymore. And that means we need each other no matter what the job is. How much do you need someone who's, I don't know, baking pies? Probably not that much over there. It'd be nice, but it's not
Yeah.
a priority. But here you can be an award winner. Here you can change someone's day. You can bring joy to even the frowniest of faces.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
this
you're
is where
right.
everybody now has a purpose if we come together. There just has to be a place that we can do that. How can people know if they were in the military and they're out now and they're done and they're like, I don't know what to do? Where do I go and where do I plug in? Which radio station do they go to know where they find everybody? Where's the beacon of hope for them to go? This is where veterans go when we get out. Where is it?
I mean, I'd like to say that's gunroom radio, but the problem, the true problem is, they go to the path that they go is tough to reach, and
Mhm.
and I know because I walked that path. Soldier A gets out, he starts realizing he has a problem. He goes to social media and he finds these, I'm sorry, but bullshit groups that at one point were amazing, and now they've gotten so big it's only about likes and shares, and they get into those little areas, and the victim card and all this other stuff that doesn't allow you to actually heal, because all you did was have somebody sympathize with your situation. They didn't give you any tools, that you didn't take any accountability, you didn't actually put the work in to heal, and you get stuck there. And all these great organizations, like yourself, Hero Stock, she's the veteran.org, leavingthesidelines.org. It has left all of these mom and pop, boots on ground organizations forced to find the veteran versus the veteran being able to search out for them, and it makes it tough because, since I started podcasting, man, I can't, I don't know. I'm somewhere around. I'm probably pretty close to episode 200. In the last couple of years that I've been doing this, and in 200 episodes, we've had some great organizations that all they want to do is help veterans. And I first got my lesson in what size and fame will do to you by going back, and I said, "Hey, I just had this podcast, so and so came on. I think there might be some veterans here that can use it." Oh, instantly I was banned for self-promotion, you know? And I was like, "Man, I thought we were helping veterans." That's what I thought we were doing. But you see it quick. And I always kind of, associated it with the jump theory, you know? You got the VA system. It's a super wide net, but it's got big holes in it, and it catches some soldiers, others get hung up in it, and a few fall straight through it. And then you've got the underlying net, and that's the mom and pop, 501(c)s that are literally operating on tiny ass budgets. They don't have big money behind them, and all they care about is helping veterans. And it's not a coincidence that almost all those 501(c)s are ran by veterans, because that is us policing ourselves. And I think we came to that conclusion that that's what it's going to take. It's going to take us fixing ourselves, because relying on the big VA that's got the worn and ate up net that people are falling through, just it's not going to be there. You know?
Yeah, I think we have to change. I'm gonna maybe just maybe have to re-understand the definition of do it ourselves or work on it ourselves. Is what you mean by that is all of us together working together
Right.
is do it ourselves?
Yep.
Yeah, because that
Yeah.
I agree with you on that one. It's one of those things where it sounds like, at first you got to do it yourself. You got to do it yourself. You got to do it
No,
yourself.
no.
And by yourself, I mean
The
all
fi
of us
the
together.
mom and pop small 501(c)s.
Yeah.
We should be a woven net catching everybody that falls through. Whether
I think that's the thing. It's just really tough when you go, we're gonna make a net and someone goes, stop promoting yourself, you're canceled.
Yeah,
Interesting, like that's not promoting me. This is promoting all of us. It's like
yeah,
canceled. Somebody says canceled.
yep,
And that's tough, man. It's an interesting game that we're in because it's got to become second, like just common knowledge or second nature that when you get out, there is a place that you plug in to connect to
yep,
the network. And you can have the VA as a part of it, but it also goes to all these other options that are the mom and pop shops, or even like there's a lot of organizations out there. And I've got a few coming up too that are also doing the same type of mission that we got to pull everybody together. And I think it's just a matter of time until people like you and some of these other people can connect. And like there's a lot because I've even my network is starting to expand with like veterans reaching out to veterans like Dan Jarvis and other people who are like, we have to stop this because the suicide rate is
yeah,
way too high. And it doesn't have to be. Even with PTSD, we have beaten it through a cognitive behavior stuff, but there's also neurolinguistics and stuff that we do to make it so that even talking with Dan, for example, they don't call it PTSD there. They call it PTS, and they
yep,
help any first responder and veteran on them. Dan's like, we're the last line of defense for this. We'll pay for it. Just work with us. They fixed it in as quick as 15 minutes to 48 hours. They can rewire your system so you're not triggered into a PTSD spiral. It can be done because they keep doing it. And they've done it for over 5,000 veterans on them.
that's awesome.
There's a way that this is done, but it's start combining these networks. Start combining. I need to get rid of this curse so I can start living a new purpose. My old
Yep,
purpose was taken. I need a new one. So there
yeah,
has to be all of these avenues. Like I got out, but I have PTSD, so I can't even take this job. It's like, well, let's go here, get rid of that curse. Then you can go here and start working with Don. Like we got to have like there's at least a progression or an order.
yeah,
And even the indoctrination back into like civilian life to like transfer that leadership over from like demands into understanding I'm here to serve. It takes time to rewire the mindset. And I think this is where I think we're seeing a lot of people going, man, I feel all alone. Because I heard Donald say we got to do it on our own. And they may be misinterpreting it. That doesn't mean all by yourself.
no,
No, that means plug in and we do it all alone together.
yep, yep.
And
The small 501(c), I don't wanna say the veteran community, because there's some great organizations where the people that are in charge of them are not veterans. But, when I say our own, I mean the small 501(c), the ones that are putting boots on the ground and are involved and interacting daily with those, veterans that need the help. And I think that's important. I wanna ask you guys a question, man, and this just kinda came to me, but I think it's something that we need to consider in the future, right? So you look a lot of the podcasts and the organizations, they're ran by people about my age, 45, 50, because, we're the ones that have gotten out of the military. And currently, we're the latest warfighting generation. However, you know, we need to be thinking about how do we interact with those soldiers that are getting out after us. because that war continued to go on after us, and that is a younger generation with different interests and different needs, and was in a different military. I mean, the military was one of the fastest changing organizations out there. So, that's something. How difficult do you think that's going to be when we start seeing the new versions of, PTS and anxiety and everything else
I
as
think
it
that
comes out?
there's in business terms, it's something that I remember that was drilled in when I was in one company. It's called a S curve. And at first, whenever we start doing anything like this to start changing the way that like everything works, at first it's going to be resisted, probably made fun of, shunned. That's never going to work. Doubt will try and play its part. That's a dumb idea. Don, you're wasting your time. This is stupid. No one's going to believe in that. Good luck trying. People have tried 1,000 times. It's never worked. It's going to do that like slow, like grind until it hits. And then it blows up real fast. And people go, holy crap, this is the thing that works. That's how it's done. This is it, until it curves back out again. And it's common knowledge. When you get out, then you go here. But a
Mhm.
lot of times you have to have the perseverance during that bottom part of the grind when they go, I don't know what that is. I never heard of it. It's not going to work. What makes you qualified? Who would follow you? That's a stupid idea. When people will try and kill the dream, a lot of times people buckle because they're like, I feel alone, isolated. I don't have the financial backing. I don't have the reach. I don't have the whatever. I
Mhm.
got canceled for saying, let's help people. What am I supposed to do?
Right.
And it'll knock your dream right out. But at some point, with everybody focusing on unifying far more than self promoting, and this isn't against you, this means period, then there's a chance for that S curve to kick on, that when you get out of the military, there is a thing you do, but
Yeah.
it will take time. So we're going to have to work on the guys out like us, our age. We got to
Yeah.
work at this age until it becomes common knowledge when they go to the VA and they come out and they're like, what the fuck am I supposed to do? And there's guys there like, oh man, you're not plugged in? Plugged into what? You got to go into this. And then another one knows. And then he tells his guys, and then more know. And then they tell their guys, another one knows. It's going to be one of those, like, it's going to have to spread that way until it just picks up. And it's like, no, when you get out, that's what you do. And so it's going
Yeah.
to take the perseverance of the few to keep pushing through the doubt, the naysaying, the bullshit, until it becomes we're all unified to the network of like, this is whatever you need. PTSD, making music, creating pies. I don't care. Run a roller
Yeah.
skating rink.
Yep.
You name it. We got the network. We have a place for you to integrate, even with the mindset training like we do, to go. We have to rewire you to be authentic again. You no longer have to be that machine. Now we got to reacclimate you to be a human again, because you got to turn this thing back on, and that way you can connect. Otherwise you're going to be the one who's like, why don't they accept me? I'm off. There's something wrong with me. I don't belong here. And then you'll be in your own head. And you remember in the truck, dude, when you were driving all alone, how much does that shame and that stack, there's
Yep.
something wrong with me,
Yep.
just beat you when you're alone. And
Yep.
there has to be a place where you go like, you're only as alone as you believe you are, because everyone in the network is one call away.
Yeah, yeah, you are right, and I can tell you there was many nights as a truck driver that I got up and went back to work the next day without any sleep. I drove all day long, was tired as hell when I stopped, and the moment I laid down, everything in here just kept going. And it was, how am I going to fix myself? How am I going to do this? Why am I doing this? And it just went on and on. Next thing you know, your alarm's going off. You're like, oh, well, time to get up and start driving. And now it's been, 36 hours by the time I stop that I've had sleep. And it spirals, man. It just keeps going deeper and deeper and deeper. And I think it's important, just like you said, people have to know that you can reach out and maybe it's the social media weirdness, that causes people to not wanna, they don't know who they're really talking to on the other side. But, I think that's where our first topic has to come back, as the people that are trying to fix this, we have to adapt and change the way we're doing it to reach the people that need it. And, that may become tough.
Yeah, I think I think that's right. I mean, as we see things come out, like new social media is coming out left and right all the time.
Yeah.
And that's just like people like us doing these podcasts, doing the radio shows, getting on every social network that we can possibly get on. And then even if we could combine, like have one, you know, for, you know, one Facebook group that has every single, Facebook page with, to help veterans
Mm,
on it right then and there. And then, oh, a new one. Oh, yeah, throw them in. Oh, a new one, throw them in. And then
yeah.
we can just spread like wildfire. But it's like, that's the thing. We have to evolve as everything else is evolving.
Yeah.
And, but I think the biggest thing, I think you both nailed it, is just don't give up and keep pushing forward. Keep reaching your hand out and pulling guys out of hell. Because you know what? When you pull that guy out of hell, he's able to pull 10 more out,
Yeah.
and so on and so forth. It's just a trickle effect. And it's a big fucking snowball. And eventually, hopefully we'll be able to get closer to when these guys are coming off of active duty or right off of the reserve train. And we scoop them up right there before that blame, that shame, and all that crap that
Yeah.
fills their head with, why the fuck am I like this? Oh, we got you, bro. We got you, sister. Let's go. Come on in here. We'll teach you the way. We'll show you the way. And that's what we need to do. One foot in front of the other, reach our hand out along the way, pulling everybody in.
Yeah. I absolutely agree. And maybe if that was happening right at the time of separation from the military, because for me, I kind of felt like when I separated, I was no longer the soldier, and I didn't really feel comfortable with my family. And so I was in that middle ground, and I think part of that is the camaraderie um aspect. That's the first thing that you lose and the first thing that you miss. And if that was replaced, maybe that first 2 years would be different, because now you've got that lifeline and that battle buddy that you've met, and it's still just like it's like PCSing. You don't know anybody at the unit you're going to, but by the end of the week, you've made best friends and everybody's clicking, and you just kind of fell right in. And I think that's kind of one aspect that would help, is if we could keep the camaraderie there, so you would be the communication is open, because without it, there's no communication anymore, and that's where feeling lonely and everything else comes to play. And so, let me kind of change a little bit. Let's talk about, so Joe Snuffy, right? Let's say he reaches out to you guys. What are the steps? Does because the reason why I'm asking this is because I want to let people understand that there's other things out there besides laying on a couch and telling your story to people that have never done it and can't relate, but will always say, "I understand." So let's walk soldier Joe Snuffy through kind of how you guys are assessing him, and the program that you're going to recommend for him.
Of course. Because we're still pretty selective over the guys that we throw in. We do have a creed that we operate under, and even tomorrow, I think we're going to be making it even stronger. And so, we have a creed, and there's rules to the Warriors Way that we all live by, including myself. None of us can break creed, and that would first be trusts. And without trust, we do not have any dynamics. If we don't trust each other, we can't have a brotherhood. We can't have friendship. You can't have a relationship without trust. It's a foundational piece for all dynamics. And so first we have to be able to trust we do not betray each other. You don't post other people's shit up. We don't turn our backs on each other. We're always there. We have to trust that you, like, I can share without you like attacking me. So we have to have that first part. Second rule is no blame, no shame, no judgment. What that is it just gets in the way of healing. The things that have happened has happened, and every single loss is meant to teach you something. Our job is to train you to find the lesson so we can move forward, not sit in the memory and feel like you're a piece of shit or you're not good enough or you're worthless or whatever judgment gets put on you. We
Yeah.
remove this is not necessary for healing. It gets in the way. Third rule is that you have to show up. Like we're gonna do the groups either way, but if you don't show up, you won't be able to, like, you're not one of us. If you're not there, you can't rely on the guy. You can't trust
Yeah.
somebody. You can't go in a battle with somebody who's going to leave you hanging. We have to show up. And then we have to we measure off of effort. It's all about how much, like, we don't care about what your results. How hard are you trying, man? Are you really going for it? And one of the main things that I would be asking Joe is, what's your willingness? Without willingness, it doesn't matter at
Yeah.
all. None of it matters if you don't want to do the work, because we can give you the best tools and the best training. And if you're not going to do it, it doesn't matter. That you're
Yeah.
not going to be one of us. You're going to waste our time. And I'm not trying to take anybody's money just to watch them throw it away because they're just not willing to do the work. If you don't have a 10 willingness, just go find another group that maybe somebody will listen to and just say, I understand a lot too. That's for you. We're
Yeah.
going to do the work though. We're going to train every single week. I give you new tools and new training, and there is practice. I don't talk about just your feelings. There's a new skill this week. Practice it. Now there's another skill. Practice it. Now you're going to learn how this works so you can defeat it. Read and understand, and then practice the tools you have to do this. There is practical application in everything that we do. This isn't theory. We're actually doing real practice.
Yeah.
And so last thing is skin in the game. Those who pay, they pay attention. And we have to have a certain amount to make it so that, understandably, there's a point in which financially, when you put into things, and this also goes into sacrifices guys do to serve, if some of them can't afford how expensive it is for what we do. And so we find other ways for them to volunteer. You have to have skin in the game. If you are not contributing, you're going to feel like you're either taking advantage, or you won't appreciate what it is that's there. And so all of us put in, and it's important that it's there. It's really disappointing when you see somebody say, I'll commit to you, but then they just don't show up. And the reality is it's easy to justify quitting on, me, or quitting on Ryan. It's easy to go like, oh, well, they'll be fine. They'll be fine. But if you have to look and go, I invested way too much money to quit, so I have to fucking show up, son of a bitch. Oh, that would really piss me off to lose that much money. So I guess I have to go. And it's like, good. I'd rather you feel that kind of pressure from your own commitment versus worrying about my feelings. It's not about me.
Yeah.
And those are the questions that we have to go through Creed. If they don't agree with any of that, they're not going to like what we do.
Yeah. That makes complete sense. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. You have to put in work, and the meds that is handed out, regardless of what the big pharmacy wants to tell you, they're designed there to help you get through a situation, not alter your personality for the rest of your life so you can ignore the situation. You have to put in the work, and that's the only way you're gonna come off the medication. That's the only way that you're gonna come out of hell, as you guys say, because without it, you're not gonna heal. And I have learned this just from podcasting. When you're helping others, you're still healing. And so, just like what you said, when you reach back and you grab somebody, and then he reaches back and grabs 10 more people, well, that second grab that he's doing is still about his healing. And he
Yep.
may not realize it at the time, but the conversations and the practices and maybe even the method that you guys use, and him retraining it to somebody else, makes him go back to the foundation and think about stuff that maybe that they have forgot. So yeah, it makes complete sense with what you're saying. If you're not committed, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, bro. That whole everything you just said, that was me before I met Rick. I'm going through the VA, going through therapy there. I started probably back in like '08 or something, starting the therapy and stuff. And not once did they ever tell me like, hey, use this tool and that'll help you catch use your awareness to help, catch your triggers. So when you feel that trigger, you can slow down. Not once. They told me, when you get enraged, grab the piece of paper that you put on your refrigerator and write down how you feel. How am I going to write down anything when I'm completely off the chain, enraged, throwing shit across the room, punching things, and
Yep.
I'm gonna punch the refrigerator before I take a piece of paper off of it and write down how I'm feeling.
Yep.
Like, it's all bullshit. And then, like you said, they're just gonna chuck meds down your throat and be like, "All right, go be a zombie, and we'll cure you that way." Well,
Yep.
yeah, you cured it by just numbing me, and now I have a whole nother set of issues. But eventually, those issues they're gonna come to the surface, and I'm gonna be fucked even more.
Yeah.
And that's what happens to these guys. Like, well, they realize, like, well, my meds aren't working. You've been on them for 4 years. So then they just stop. And then what happens? All hell breaks loose.
Yep.
And you know what? I hate to say it, but a lot of the time they don't make it because of that.
Yeah.
And
And
that's what
and
kills them.
and
It sucks.
even if they are one of the rare guys that do make it all the way until they die at 80 years old, taking their meds, you know, let's look back at the life that they lived. Was it a quality life, or was they just going through the motions?
Yeah.
Because that's what I've noticed is the medication just helps you go through the motions. You know, your anger is numbed, your happiness is also numbed. So you live in that, like we was talking earlier, without good, you don't have bad, without bad, you don't have good, and you just kind of right here. And that's not a quality life, you
it,
know.
it's important too to understand that a lot of those words that people describe as an emotion are also skills, and that's something that we do that's different. And Ryan will attest, I am I am a big proponent of challenging words. Like, if you go into my advanced stuff that I do, I'll take one word and have you spinning for 2 weeks. Like, I do some pretty intense stuff when it comes to understanding. And it's the same thing. Anger, that's a skill. You're like, yeah, no, it's an emotion that I just transfer all my sadness and all of my emotions go into anger. That's just one thing I do. That's just how I do it. It's like, this is a skill. It's trainable. There are pieces to it that if you understand it, you can start to learn that you control it. It doesn't have to control you. Be like, well, that's the only thing that I knew, because you aren't trained to use it
Right.
correctly yet. There's only two kinds of people, trained or untrained. This is a skill. Happiness is a skill, and I'll teach you how to do it in minutes. Actually, I did a podcast today where I broke it down for a doctor and a lawyer to go, here's the formula. And it's not that complicated. It's pretty simple. You can practice right now. Does it require practice? Just like all skills.
Yeah.
Yes, it requires practice. To understand anger, you have to understand the three parts that trigger the umbrella for anger. Either something is taken from you, or something has been lost, or something is unfair or injustice, or there's an unmet need that you don't know how to articulate yet, but you don't have it being met and it's going to piss you off. When you look at like all of the things that we get triggered by, it usually falls under one of these categories. Well, if you
Yeah.
understand what it is, it's a lot easier to make a request to try to get it solved if you at least know what triggers you. If you've
Yeah.
got an attack style defense, the best defense is a great offense. If this is your defense or your coping mechanism, you're going to start creating separation. You're going to start making it so people don't want to be around you, even if you're right in your argument, because your
Yep.
ego is your amigo and you're right in your argument. People go, yeah, well, maybe you're right, but I don't like being around you.
Yeah.
Good. What
Yeah.
was the cost? What was the cost of being correct? Now you're truly
Loneliness.
alone again.
Yep.
And if your goal is not to be isolated, being an untrained anger monster is going to just give you a result that goes against what your goals are, because you can't be a good pack leader if you attack your pack.
Yeah. Yeah. You're absolutely right. One of the things that I learned, um, and it comes with practice, just like you said, is I love the phrase "it is what it is," and the reason why I say that isn't because, well, if it's just something that's making me mad and I should address it, but I don't want to, I'll just say it is what it is. That's not what I'm saying. But the problem with us a lot of times when we're in these dark areas is we want to take all the burden and all the problems, whether we can solve them or not solve them, and just put them on our shoulders, and we just keep burying ourselves. And until you can just get to that point where you can say, well, it is what it is, and let the things that you can't control go, so you can have the energy to fight the things that you can.
Is it okay if I challenge just a couple pieces to it?
Yeah.
All right, so you're not wrong, but if untrained, it's very wrong. And I'll tell
Yeah.
you the curse that comes from that. It is what it is only accepting the one part of the denial aspect of the entire conversation. And you can also probably fudge it into the bargaining section, but it doesn't work as well through anger and sadness. It starts to, I've actually seen this in some very intelligent defense mechanisms. Oh, well, is what it is. So whatever, can't change it now, is what it is. Well, that only addresses the reality aspect, but it doesn't go with how do you feel about this?
Right.
It
Yeah.
doesn't allow you to go through all of your grieving cycle. And you have to understand the grieving system is not because you're fucking crazy. It's actually necessary for us to be able to actually in a healthy way, work towards acceptance. So you're not wrong with the target is correct. But if you do it incorrectly, you can use denial as acceptance.
Yeah.
And that's the curse, where because I said is what it is means I don't work through bargaining, I don't work through anger, I don't work through depression because I don't have to go through the other phases. And I can just skip right to acceptance. But that means you're creating a suppression of all of these other things. And if you create a suppression, it leads to expression. And there's only a few ways it explodes when it blows up. You either break down into misery and you're in depression and you're crying and falling apart, or you explode and the collateral damage from your anger will destroy everything that you love. You'll burn your whole village down. And so those are the only two outcomes. You know what they diagnosed that? Bipolar disorder.
Yeah.
It's
It-
only because you weren't trained to grieve properly and you're skipping the other essential parts which lead to explosion. And now you're on a new set of meds because now you have bipolar disorder. It's not necessary if you're trained how to handle your grieving system, which can happen multiple times in a day. If you understand how to do it, you don't have suppression, which doesn't lead to the expression of the volcanoing because you know thyself, you know thy enemy, and you know how to battle. That's trained versus untrained. So your
yeah.
answer is technically correct, but in the wrong hands, this tool becomes a weapon for self-destruction.
Yeah. I agree. And that's where, like I said, training would have to come in because you have to know what it is that you truly can't control versus what you really don't want to control. And yeah, it makes perfect sense that you skip all those steps and it just becomes more buried shit that you're gonna have to unpack at some time.
Well, it's tough because you can be in the grieving system for multiple things at once. And that's why, like, when you leave that identity change, you lose your whole entire system of operation. But also, you're carrying with you the loss of the loved ones or brothers that died along the way, brothers or sisters, the people who passed away or were killed in action. And then you come back and you have no place and nobody understands you. So now we're going through at least three very heavy grieving systems all at the same time. Now the thing is you're not only in one at a time. It bounces back and forth. You can go from getting pissed to being sad to it's fine, is what it is, to fuck them, to like, well, if only I do this, maybe I can get them to dig it. Well, they didn't dig it, so fuck them again. I'm really sad because now I'm all alone. Well, whatever, I don't really need them. But if they were to get it, then maybe I could do this. Well, they're not getting it because they're fucking assholes. What am I even trying for? I guess I'm all alone again, and so fuck me. And then, well, I'll just pretend like it's fine. I'm not going to talk about it. You'll be bouncing back and forth between the system forever until you can actually start working through acceptance on each individual battle. But if you do them all at once, you're in 3 or 4 of those at the same time. But I'm telling you now, you can't defeat anger the same way you fight depression. They're two different monsters. You
Yeah.
can't fight them the same way. And if you think denial is the same as depression, you're wrong, but they like to team up on your ass. I'll tell you what.
Yeah. Yeah. You're absolutely right. And
Mhm.
it's tough because we had this conversation on my last podcast last Tuesday. It was about, where does the term fighting your demons come from? And I kind of rationalize it as we're fighting the unknown. We're never really dealt with feelings because we were all alike and the scenario was all the same. And now you're out on there on your own fighting something you can't see. And my best emotion that I can relate this to is there's a lot of times that I would wake up, just got out of bed, sitting on the side of the bed, and I just feel like something's wrong. I don't know what it is. I've got that feeling, and it's like sits right in the center of my soul. And as I go through the day, that just grows and grows. And next thing I know, it's no longer anxiety, it's anger. And now I'm just lashing out at everybody over things that should just never even been thought about. And it's because again, I'm getting my ass kicked by a demon that I can't see. And I think that's the best way I can explain where that term, you're fighting your demons come from.
Yeah, a lot of the times though, I mean, look at us military guys. Look what we were taught in the military. We weren't taught how to feel. We were told to
That's right.
shut that shit the fuck down.
Yep.
Because the only thing you should do is fall back on your training that we're teaching you.
Yeah.
And go towards the gunfire, get behind cover, all the tools and shit that we needed on the battlefield, which
Yep.
was shut that switch off and go kill the enemy.
Yeah.
Protect your brothers and sisters. That's it. When you come back, everything up here is fucked up. So it's like, okay, well, now who do I talk to about that? Do I talk to my sergeant? He's gonna tell me to suck it up, Buttercup, and
Yep.
go freaking drink some coffee, or go take some ibuprofen and some water. Done. Or freaking, do I go talk to the chaplain? Well, what if you're not religious? Then what? Or what if
Yeah.
how are they gonna know? Like, were they out on the battlefield? Did they see what I saw? I don't know any chaplains that were carrying guns over there, so
Yeah.
how am I going to relate to that? And then, well, okay, next thing, do I go talk to a shrink? Oh, hell no, we don't talk to the wizard because we know the wizard's going to pull us off the battlefield.
Yep. And
We're
now I'm
done.
completely different than everybody else.
Yep, I'm fucked. If I go to the wizard and everybody else hears about it, be like, well, I don't want to stand next to that guy. I don't want to go on the range with him because he's fucking cuckoo. I don't want him to turn on us. So now what do? You're screwed. But that's where we need to change that mentality and get that shit out of us and be able to express these things in a healthy way and find the groups like this and find the people like you that will actually listen and be like, hey, you can tell me anything. It's a safe place. We don't have a safe place in the military.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you do, like I said, you're either going to see the wizard or you're sidelined.
Yep.
Done.
And
That's it.
I seen that too, because right there towards the end of my career, man, they brought in they're not shrinks, they're not counselors, they were just people that were hired that if we had problems we could go talk to. And nobody nobody would know. They don't report back to your chain of command, nothing, right? Wasn't it always funny that their office was the one right next to your first sergeant's? I mean, they seen you go in. You only went in for one fucking reason,
Mhm.
you know, and you are instantly different the moment you made that step and you walked in.
Yeah.
The moment you said, "I'm thinking about killing myself," you were different. You were looked at as a piece of shit because now somebody's going to have to sit with you and hold your shoelaces and make sure that you don't harm yourself, and you just ruined somebody's weekend. And now the first one's got to come up with a guard roster to guard you, and you were literally put in a bad position, you know.
You are now a burden again. Like,
Yep.
never, not only did you have to deal with the burden that's going on inside your own head, now you have to, you're seen as that to everybody.
Yep.
It's not like that person that's sitting there outside your door is happy about it. So I mean, if you sit there and be like, hey, can I say anything to you? Like, try to say anything to them, they're gonna tell you to fuck off, stop
Yep.
being a pansy, whatever,
Yep.
so on and so forth. And then what? Then you're in your hole even further.
We treat them like it's contagious. I don't want what you got.
Yeah.
Because I see what's happening to you. I don't want that. So
Right. And
you're on your own there, buddy.
And it only takes once, or it doesn't. You don't even have to see that. You just have to hear about it,
Yeah.
and it spreads like wildfire. It's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
oh, they treated him like they did that. Oh, they took his what? Oh, he can't even go do do the cool shit anymore. Oh, damn. Or he's
Yeah.
gonna get chaptered out. Oh, okay, I don't want that. So now what do? Any little like thought of emotion,
Yep.
boom, I'm gonna yeah, exactly. Push it down, and now I'm on a mountain, or I'm putting it in my rucksack, and now I'm carrying, you know,
Yeah.
10,000 pounds. I'm dragging it behind me, but I'm not gonna drop that because I don't want anybody to see what's in it, you know. So now it's just yeah, it just sucks, man. It really does. It's the stigma has to change. You know, and I used to try to talk to all my guys when I was a platoon sergeant for a good part of five plus years, and I tried to connect with them so they would feel that and trust me to be able to come to me and
Yeah.
say anything. And I have the discretion to be like, you know, yeah, that's some serious shit. We gotta run that up the chain,
Yeah.
or all right, let me get you a couple guys. We're gonna sit down and hash this shit out and find out what's going on. Where can I lead this kid to get him or her better? And I
Yeah.
was fine with that. I didn't have to push everything up the chain. Like I wasn't that guy. I'm not doing it because I
Yeah.
know what at the end of that tunnel, I know what that leads. That leads to them being an outcast. I'm not doing that to my guys.
Yeah.
It's not fair. But the stigma has to change, and it
Uh,
starts with
Even
you
if it
know
doesn't change from within, like I think, like you were saying, what's the solution? Because what are the odds that you're going to go in and tell the military to be different? Probably not the highest, but we can create the place for when you're out. It's not like that. And I
Yeah.
think that's where I think the solution is going with what you were talking about. How do we unify all this stuff? Like
well,
it
the
can
best we
be an
can do.
answer where you go like, we can't go in there and say run it different because it's not going to run different. And as far as like, protection and military and the way that like when the tool is working, it seems to be working pretty damn good. So you can't fuck with them. But when it gets out, there needs to be like, all right, there's a system that you go through to reacclimate you. So we have to turn your human back on, but we also have to address the stuff that you've been pushing down while in there because that doesn't work out here. It gets even worse out here. And so there
Yeah.
just has to be like, you're not fucking crazy for pushing it down. That's what everybody had to do. But there is a place you got to go now to learn how to let it out the correct way. Otherwise, you let it out the very wrong way. And like you said, it starts to store in here and then it goes through the phases. First, it feels like something's not right. And then it turns into anger and it turns into just outbursting on other people until it turns into depression, until it turns into I am nothing,
Yep.
until it consumes you. But there's a way to let that steam off with training. And
Yeah.
that's what we do. We teach guys how to have the outlets the right way so they can operate under their warrior type.
So let's take it and look at it this way, right? So this is the first time America's ever been in a 20-year war where it lasted 20 years. The one thing that we got to see was there's phases. Your first phase of war is to go in and kill everything that is in front of you and leave nothing behind. And then it changes into a sustainment phase. Now we're going to control what we've got and control our environment around us. And then it goes into a we're going to start rebuilding phase. And now we're not going to just kick doors in. We're going to knock on the door and try to be their friend. And then the final phase is we're going to put it all back together and rebuild it. And I seen that in Afghanistan. I seen that same situation in Iraq. We were doing it in Bosnia, even though all I got to see was the rebuild and put it all back together phase. But it happened there too. And what I would like to say, and I know people don't want to hear that, but the truth is, you hiding and shoving shit down and turning that switch off is a trained trait that is necessary. You are not going to be able to survive to unpack the problems you have if you have to try to rationalize what you're seeing and what you're doing at that time. And I hope, and this is just hope, but I do hope that maybe as the wars have slowed down and ended, that the army looks at us as those same phases and they start trying to put the soldier back together to deal with it until we're needed to turn and train a different way again. Um, I don't know that they will. I don't know if they can, but I think that's one problem is that we're
We can
skipping
pray
Las
for it,
Vegas.
but I think it's the same thing as you saying like, hey, there's no radio stations for our veterans. And I can hope that somebody would do it. I hope someday, Donald, I hope someday somebody just does that. I hope somebody just does that. Well, we can hope,
Yeah,
or we can build it.
yeah,
Like, and this is why I appreciate you so much, is because you're like, there's a giant hole here and something that we need. Is anybody building that? Is there nobody doing? Is this thing on? Like,
yeah,
and they're like, no, nobody's doing that. And you're like, well, then I guess we just found our mission.
yeah.
Then I
And
guess we have to build that, because it doesn't, I don't know where that is. And if it does exist, I'm going to build it until I find somebody else who's doing it. And then we're going to team up and
Yep.
we're going to help as many people as we can.
yeah, absolutely, man.
And so this is where I have to give you a testament. And this is, I'm the same way. Ryan knows. I'm very much like, well, does it exist? And they're like, well, no. Well, then looks like we have something to build.
Yeah. Yeah, just because it doesn't exist doesn't mean that that you just walk away and go about. That's when the work starts. That's when you roll up your sleeves and you still make the mission happen,
Yeah.
regardless of what you've got to do. And I've always had that mentality, man. You know, um, I don't like the walk into a door and stop and then just stand there until somebody else opens the door for you, because it goes
never,
back.
Didn't think of it that way. That's funny. Yeah.
Yeah,
You're gonna
but
be
I mean,
there
how
for a
long are
while.
you going to stand there and stare at it until somebody finally realizes you don't know how to turn the doorknob? You know?
Yeah, that's a pull door, sir. You can't keep pushing it.
Yeah, man. You
uh,
know?
I do want to go back to what you just said too. I do want to like reiterate too that the coping mechanisms that people are using to get through these difficult times, on a healthy version, none of them are crazy. And when you get to the different styles, and the correlation between like the bargaining and fear aspect of it, which is like the what do I have to sacrifice of myself to make it so that I can get through this or find peace or make it so that you're okay. The attack style, which is meant to be a protection response. You've got retreat, hide, suppress, and this is the denial aspect of things, which, like you said, I have to do this until I can unpack it later. If done in a healthy way, even freeze. Like, it may not be great in combat, but they did find in studies that people who have a freeze defense mechanism, even in arguments, they're not shut down because they're stupid. They're actually taking in all of the information all at once, but it's too much to make a decision instantaneously.
Right.
And so it's not because they shut down and they got dumber. It's because they got more aware and it's too much to process in order to make a decision immediately. And it's actually reversed. And so that was something that, like, without any, research or training, it seems like, I was like, this guy's a fucking idiot. This guy's stupid. He's
Yeah.
not stupid. He's just taking in everything that you may be missing. And with, him having enough time to process and go, okay, now I've processed all of that, the best answer is, and they usually can be right
Yeah.
because they took in more info. And so these are useful tools, and they've been useful in nature and if done correctly. But a lot of times, the lack of control in creating a coping mechanism usually leads to an unhealthy version of it. And I think we've seen the unhealthy versions of all. And that's why this next book that I'm writing is called The Map Out of Hell. It really does do the correlation between how we deal when we don't have control in a healthy to unhealthy way, in correspondence to going through grieving cycles in the way it's meant to be done, and then understanding the enemies within that attack us. And that gets into doubt and fear and excuses and distractions, and understanding how those work and how to beat them.
I never thought about it this way too. And man, you guys have opened up a lot of thought for me just in this podcast. I used to, I mean, I'm not used to. I still am. I like cryptocurrency and investing and stuff like that, right? And the one thing that I have learned, that you don't have to be the greatest uh, guy reading at balance sheets and everything else to be a great investor. If you understand psychology and people's reactions to situations, it opens up doors for you to take advantage of. And there's a psychological path that people follow, you know, and it's just a big circle, and it constantly keeps rotating. It may be 4 years that it takes to go all the way around, but it does happen. And it's because the people that are succeeding from that is because they're watching the emotions that are happening around them. And if you don't understand your emotions, you're not going to understand other people's emotions. And now you've just became part of that rat race versus being able to take in the information, just like you said, analyze it, and understand where it came from. What caused that? Was it fear? Was it doubt, confusion, whatever it may be? But it's because you got to the point where you knew yourself and you learned your own emotions and your triggers and everything else. And I think that plays a lot in just life in general, you know?
Oh yeah, that's why one of our biggest tool, man, is awareness.
Yeah.
Like you got to look in, like, not just like, oh well, like for veterans, like, where's my exits, where's my, who's the biggest threat in the room, like, oh, if anybody had a gun, it's probably that guy.
Yeah.
No, like, look inside yourself, like, be aware of, like, oh, like you said, your triggers. What triggers you? What makes you mad? Well, if somebody, getting too close to you makes you uncomfortable, okay, well, hey, back up from these people. Or tell them, just, hey, can you stop right there? I'm good. You know, don't put yourself in those situations. But it's like, if you're not aware of yourself, you're always going to have those problems. You're always
Yeah.
going to be triggered, which is whose problem? Not the person that's doing it, because they don't know,
Yeah.
but it's you. You need to know yourself. So then those triggers, they might be this big at first. And then once you're aware of it, it goes like this, and then this, and then this. And the next thing you know, it's fucking gone. You
Yeah.
don't have it. And talking about it and being aware of it is like, is the most important thing. And that's what people don't understand. It's like, be aware of your own shit so you can fix it.
Yeah.
Mhm. And that's what we do here, man. That's our biggest tool. Like I tell these guys, like, know your shit, know you. Because then you start finding out, like, your authentic self. You can be chill. You don't have to be on edge all the time.
It's a good
Yeah.
explanation, man. We do like 5 weeks of just know thyself training.
I think
Like,
I think I think it's important, man.
mhm.
You
Like
know?
Ryan knows, he's been running groups recently, and he's like, it's 5 weeks of like, here's another piece of you got to challenge. Here's where you got to dig in. What did you find? What belief systems are in here? What's your default program? What's your personality type? Which kind of warrior strengths do you have? Like, who are you? Do you even know? I don't, and it gets all the way to stuff that you may not think is relevant, like your Enneagram, your Myers-Briggs, your fucking love languages. Do you know you? Do you have any
Yeah.
idea? Because how do you know how you work if you never even ask?
Yeah.
Yeah. And as a society, that has changed drastically, from, you know, we used to remember the way we communicated was when the damn light came on, your ass had better be home. And now literally I don't even bat an eye at it anymore when I see it. I'll see two teenagers sitting in the same room texting each other,
Mhm.
you know? And I've just gotten to the point where, well, nothing new, you know? But everything's changed from society, even how we communicate. And
It's just been amplified. I don't think it's changed that much. It's just been on a much larger scale. Because if you think about, like, even the most simple of things societally, like comparison, it's the most simple. Like, oh, I'm not as good as them, or he's stronger than me,
yeah,
or she's prettier than I am, or whatever. There's the comparison thing has always been there, and it's usually like within the village, or
yeah,
within the community, or within the school, or within the work, or within your reach of your peers within the county, even.
mhm,
Usually the comparison is up to like what? Let's go on the largest scale, normally maybe a couple thousand people.
maybe at the
Like
most.
that's at like the most, and that's if you're in like a big, huge community.
Yeah,
Otherwise, it's maybe a couple hundred people was like, this is the comparison. And there was still at least some sort of a, I know my place in the pecking order idea. It's a little easier to figure out when it's a few hundred people. What do you do when it's billions?
yeah, I never thought about it like that either. Yeah,
Like,
you
what do you do? And like, if you're the prettiest girl in town, that's one thing to be Snow White, but now you're compared to the 0.01% across Russia, in Indonesia, you know, you name the country, Africa, Europe.
Yeah.
Now it's the prettiest women in the universe. And you're like, am I in the, are you comparing me to this? Like,
Yeah.
what? Like, you're never good enough. And then when are you the best? It's like compared to who? Internationally, the strongest on the planet. And you can just do a direct comparison. You're like, well, shit, like in my community, I'm one of the most useful, but
Yeah.
globally, I don't even register to compete. Well,
Yeah.
I guess I suck. Like it's just on a much larger scale where the pecking order makes everyone feel useless. And even worse, if you're at the top, everyone just wants to knock you off.
Yeah. And before, like you said, you used to have to experience that to find that out.
Mhm.
So, I used to love to fight. I was pretty damn good in my little village, you
Yeah, in
know?
the village, we're badasses for
Yeah.
sure.
And then I went into the army and I had a goal, I had a dream, I wanted to fight all army. And as the tournaments got bigger, I realized that I wasn't quite the badass I thought I was, you know? And finally acceptance came in from concussions. That maybe this is not the path that I was meant to be on. And but yeah, that's exactly it. Now imagine had I had the internet, at my hands at that point, and I'm watching all these videos of all these other fighters that are my age and everything else. Maybe then I don't even try anymore because I realize I'm not I'm not as good as I thought I was,
What's
you
your
know?
confidence look like now when it's compared to people who've been doing it since they were 2 years old?
Yeah.
People who was born in the Gracie camp. What are you supposed to do?
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
You know what I mean? Like, what are you going to do? And that kid was like, he was learning jujitsu at the same time he was learning to stand. Like, what are you supposed to do?
Yeah.
And like, and it's one of those things. Well, shit, I started when I was 18. Like, that guy's been doing it since he was 8 months. What am I supposed to do with that? Like, I can't.
Yeah.
Like, he's almost 2 decades ahead of me. What do I do? So there's just no win. And not to mention with fake stuff and social media being able to put up
Yeah.
only the good stuff and not show the reality, because you'll see people taking all these perfect family photos and like somehow, I don't know how Ryan and Katie did it, but they have all the kids wearing flannel in the pumpkin patch in the
Yeah.
fall, and they're all smiling and they're all matching. How, and you're looking at your life and the room's a fucking mess and the dog's shitting somewhere and the kids are breaking stuff and your wife is crying in the kitchen, and you're like, well, how come I must suck at life if I can't? They're all matching. And how do they all look at the camera? And you don't know that, like, that took 35 photos. And
Yep.
after that, the husband and wife argued. They're getting a divorce a month later. Like, you don't know the reality to it, but you can see the images and it seems like everything's perfect. And we've seen it even within our own groups, guys who are starting off and like, their life is upside down, but then you'll still see like, posts go up that everything's perfect. And you're going to be
Yeah.
like, what kind of reality are we in when everything seems like it's an illusion?
Yeah. Yeah, you
And
you're absolutely right. And the reality was their dog did shit in the corner behind them. You just
yeah,
didn't see it.
they photoshopped the dog shitting out of the photo. Like,
Well, that whole thing is, like what, keeping up with the Joneses, man. Like
Yeah. That
that's
used
the
to be the
biggest.
saying as, when you seen the guy next door get a new car, and
Yeah.
then the guy on the other side of you went and got a new car. Well, yeah,
Mhm.
everybody's, yeah, he's just trying to keep up with the Joneses,
Yeah,
well,
like
now
what's
it's
that?
every
What's that
guy.
Christmas movie? The lights. So I gotta get this light and then
Yep.
this light. Next thing you know, like it can be seen from freaking Mars. It's like
Yep.
slow down, man. Like what you have is good enough.
Yeah.
Well, there's a few perspectives on it, but it's even more like there's a few references, a lot of references I'm sure we can make. But I recently just watched Don't Look Up, which is probably a good example of how fucked humanity really is. If you watch that, that's the one with the meteor is going to hit the Earth, like a comet's going to hit the Earth with Leonardo DiCaprio, and they're like showing like, hey, if you told them like, listen, we're all gonna die, there's a comet coming, like it would get polarized immediately and it would turn into this giant campaign of look uppers and don't look uppers, and it don't look up because they just want you to not work and you're a hard worker, so look down and keep your feet on the ground because you're grounded and you're smart. Don't look up, and then look up because you're all stupid. And it's just this big thing where everybody's arguing instead of going like, Are we going to address that a comet is coming to kill us? Like,
Yeah.
we're arguing over being polarized over if it's even real. Like, it's the most silly, ridiculous movie, but it's probably more of an autobiography of how we would really die. And it was just one of those things at the end when Leonardo DiCaprio was like sitting there and they're kind of like, the thing just hit the earth. The earth is about to explode. The shock wave is coming towards them, and they're realizing, like, we really had it all. Like, everything. We would worry about the flavor of coffee we would start the day off with. You know, we had the safety of the home that we have right now, and we have the loved ones around us, and we have, you know, the dog that's even able to bark. You know, we've got the books, the workout equipment, the guns, the drinks, the friends. We really had it all, but we weren't able to see it.
What are you grateful for?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
from the little things. Like, I had a conversation with the other guy not long ago, and he was like, one of the guys in the group, and he was like, well, I didn't want to start off like too small of, like, you know, well, I got fingers. I'm happy that I have fingers. I was like, well, why not? He's like, well, I just thought, you know, it was, you know, just something simple. Like, I was starting big. I was like, well, you wouldn't have had it. You might not have all that stuff if you didn't have your fingers.
Yeah.
You know, like, you wouldn't have been able to write, you know, the contract to get that house that you have, or, you know, so on and so forth. Like, it starts somewhere. Like, the toes on your feet. And then your feet, like, they got you to walk up that beautiful mountain to see that beautiful view with your beautiful kids that you have on your beautiful shoulders. Like, it's all relevant, you know?
You know, and we definitely do forget that, but there's a time in I think everybody's life that we do remember it, and that's, you know, just like you said, when your kids are born, what's the first thing you look at? You know, 5 fingers, 5 toes, 10 fingers, 10 toes. You know,
Mhm.
which is it? And um, that's us going back to the basics. You know, it's our way of saying, you know, is everything okay? And just to say that I don't want to start that small, well, to the guy next to him that doesn't have any fingers, is having fingers and being thankful for it too small? Because
Yeah.
that's probably a pretty big thing that he would be extremely thankful for if he had them. You
Yeah.
know?
Absolutely.
Well, even losing any of it, it makes you pay attention. I think that's one of life's lessons that's happening all the time. The reason we have a grieving system is because there's a lesson to be learned in every single
Yeah,
thing, even death. There's a lesson to be learned. You know, loss of, you know, even mobility, loss of a limb, loss of a loved one, loss of a job, loss of a marriage, loss of anything. All these losses are lessons,
yeah,
but we take them so to heart as though it happened to us, and we can't see how it happened for us. But I've lost a lot of people, and I've even, like, you know, Ryan and I have talked. Some of our most catastrophic losses were our dogs, you know,
yeah.
and like that's like
Oh,
your
yeah.
best friend in the world. Like, and so, like, I've had 2 puppies killed. Ryan's best friends, they were all, he had to put down his girl. Like, it's crazy to see, like, the way that, like, these losses can impact us, but there's a causality that comes from it. Like, everything that happens leads to another set of things that happens, that leads to another set of things that happens. And Ryan is one of my favorite stories for causality, because, like, you know, I'm with him with, like my dog dying opened my heart up a lot to the things that I have around, because I lost something so pure and so beautiful.
Yeah,
It made me a lot more soft towards the beauty that I have with my daughters and my wife and my people. I mean, even my guys, like, it opened up my heart to that. It would have maybe taken longer. Even my patience level with my other dogs so much higher because of how quickly they can be gone.
yeah.
Well, even Ryan, when your dog, you had to put your dog to start off with a beautiful day, and then she had like a, was it like a stroke, or what happened to her? Like the second
Yes.
back of her body like went numb.
Yeah, something happened internally that you couldn't even see, and she was just like, "Oh, that was it." You know, just, you know, it's out of the blue. Like, we know she was kind of declining, but not like that bad. And next thing you know, it was like, "Ah, shit." Well, that's it. Let's take her. So,
Yeah.
and Rick was saying, like, that led to
You got
us
to
putting her
cope.
down, and
After
yeah,
we had to put your dog down, then you got to cope, right? And then how do you
yeah,
cope? Donald, things are wrong. How do you cope? What are you supposed to cope with? What's the best coping tool?
Oh, yeah, yeah,
You know
absolutely.
how to cope. We
Yeah,
know what to do. So
yeah,
Ryan's like, I'm going to the bar, and what's the goal? Just one drink? Was it just?
Oh no, I was going to get shit faced. I was going to lose myself.
We're getting
tenfold.
numbed up tonight. We're losing our fucking mind tonight. So Ryan goes to the bar because he's about to just erase his memory today. And so when he's sitting at the bar, while he's in mid, like, let me go ahead and destroy all my brain cells as far and as fast as I can, he ends up talking to this girl. And while he's talking to this girl, that conversation starts getting more interesting. And let's just face it, this girl, she's a little hot, right? You thought she was good looking. She's a good looking lady. And so you're talking to her and you start talking, you start hanging. Fast forwarding the story, now they got beautiful boys together. They've been married now for how many years now?
7.
7 years. Like, now think about this. He would have stayed home that night and done whatever with his dog if that dog would have been okay.
Yeah.
If his dog didn't have any issues and he didn't have to go through that day, he never would have had to go to the bar because he probably wouldn't have. He probably would have stayed home and enjoyed his night with his dog. But that whole ordeal created a need to numb, and that need to numb led to meeting Katie, and then meeting Katie led to love, and love meant to family. But if he didn't have that moment, he wouldn't have the family he has now. And if he didn't have the family he has now, the life wouldn't have gone the way that it did, and I never would have met him. Yeah. So causality is everything. Like, each thing that happens leads to another thing that happens, leads to another thing that happens.
Yep. Yeah, and that's exactly what we started the show with, man. I mean, that's awesome how we ended up coming back full circle. That very rarely does that ever happen, but it's exactly.
You just haven't hung out with us enough. We do it every time. We always do it.
Well, man, let me ask you a question. If somebody wanted to reach out and become a part of your group and they needed some help, man, how do they do it? What's the best way?
Just go to the website. There's a lot of different things we've got. We've got do-it-yourself options if people just want to start off with getting information. We made it very inexpensive. Just be understanding that we have information if you want it on the website at thewarriorswaymindset.com. We have it, but we also and not information. You're going to have to work with us. It's one way to, like, the answer is your Rubik's Cube should look like this when it's solved. That's the answer. That's what it's supposed to look like. You're like, all right, cool, got the answer. But once you start working on your own, you're going to be like, all right, mine's fucking not doing it. All right. Like this, what am I missing? It's supposed to just do that, Yeah. And so what we do is we make sure if you really want to solve it, we'll go through. You got to go like here. You see how these are here? We'll train you how to solve. And it takes time, it takes work, and it takes effort, but transformation is a little bit different. And so you'll book a call, and most likely you'll end up being with me or it'll be with one of my guys. Most likely I'll talk to you because I'm going to assess, like, are you really willing to do this? Do you have what it takes? Is it free? Not the transformation. We put about 4 to 5 months into you because we have to rewire your entire belief system to be authentic. And most of your life has been doing what you've been told to do. Parents, teachers, coaches, bosses, spouses, commanding officers. When have you not been told what you're supposed to do? And we have to rewire a lot of things to be authentic because we may have forgot who the hell that even is.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Yeah, so go to the website, book a call if you really want to do the work. And if you just want the stuff to check it out, we got tons of stuff that's free you can check out, or also just get some of the content that gives you the tools, because you can essentially buy our toolkit. This is the weapons and the strategy guide of how to beat like anxiety, how to beat fear, how to beat doubt. I've got it all in there. It's do it yourself. If you just want that, do that. You don't have to talk to anybody. Get started. And then if you're like, you know what? I got the tools, but it doesn't teach me how to build a house. So I want to build. Jump into a group. You can meet Ryan because most likely Ryan will get to be teaching you first. You work your way up, and as you work your way up, you're going to be working with me, or you'll be working with some of our other warriors who have been through hell, and we'll come in and get you. We're not scared of demons. We're not scared of monsters. And Ryan is actually part of one of our special ops groups that we have that goes into shadow work, goes into the darkness. They do it on purpose. And we come in and we get people who are drowning in depression. We go in and get them. Addiction, we're not scared of that shit. We've beaten it a bunch of times. We'll show you how it works. Anxiety, it's got a step-by-step process to it. And it's been helping people decide I no longer need to be on this medication because the reason I was having anxiety, I now have control over. I just needed training. I wasn't fucked up. I was brilliant. I just didn't have any training on how to do it right. So
Yeah.
we actually do the work. And so if anybody's like, I'm actually sick and tired of being fucking sick and tired, and I want to be the best alpha I can, I'm going to hang out with other leaders who are all combining black box theory. We're all combining all of the information that's working amongst the other leaders. It'll build your confidence. It'll build your leadership. It'll build your camaraderie. And most importantly, building a community of men who are all looking out for each other authentically. Be yourself, be the best warrior you can be, and then you can start leading, your own pack. You can start leading your own groups, and together we're stronger.
And that's at warriorswaymindset.com.
Correct.
Right. Well, man, they can also find you on Facebook as well.
Yeah, all of our link trees and stuff. It's all on TikTok.
Yep.
You can find us. We have a lot of stuff. We got the Battlefield of the Mind podcast. There's a lot of content going there. I'm probably going to post this up there too. Also, I didn't realize this was live. This is fantastic. I see Craig and Brian and people who are commenting. I'm like, I didn't realize people could just comment. That sounds awesome. They should be just asking questions. We'll fire them off. I didn't know.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
I didn't see that either.
Sometimes
Get me blushing
sometimes
now.
you get what we call watchers. They get a little shy. They don't want to talk, but
I didn't even know. I'm used to I've recorded probably like 50 podcasts in the last 3 weeks, and so I'm like, I'm not used to comments showing up in the middle of them. I'm like, this will get posted next week, and you're like, okay, cool. I'm like,
Yep.
Hey, Brian Roof's in here. Okay.
Absolutely, man. I just I'm one of those guys, man. I just say we'll do it, and we're gonna keep it real, and that's why I love how I do it, because it's just a conversation, man. We don't have to agree on everything, and the things that we do agree on just kind of reinforces our thoughts, but it's going to be a conversation between me, and I'm going to learn your stories and what you're about, and I've learned a lot from this podcast that we had today. I mean, there's been a lot of things that maybe I was piecing them together, but I didn't realize how they were coming together, and that was within an hour and a half, man. Like you said, imagine what somebody could do with you that you've invested 6 months in,
We don't have to imagine. Ryan knows.
You're looking at it, bro.
Yeah.
Like, long story short, man, I was an angry fucking dude. Like, it's like how I grew up. Like, I was known like, oh, I'm gonna be the big bad tough guy. I'm gonna go around fighting everybody and shit. And through this program, I have learned how to control that. Like, I don't have to be that angry guy anymore,
Yeah.
because it doesn't serve me. Like, we said earlier, it pushes people away. Like, one of the stories I remember was like, I was going out with some friends, and like, I'm like, where are we going tonight? And like, well, we're going to the bar. I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, let's go. I'm like, you're not coming with us. We don't want you to go. I'm like, why not? Like, dude, every time you go, you start shit for no reason. Like, you're the guy. I'm like, oh fuck. Like, that hit. I'm like,
Yeah.
So I just, obviously, I didn't know any better. I was untrained then, so I just went and did my own thing. But now I'm like, hindsight, I'm like, man, if I had only known better, I could have, how many other friends could I have had? All those guys that I was like, what's up? They could have been best buds, like, who knows? So fixing myself, like, I've created so many friends. It's not even funny, because I'm not pushing people away anymore. I'm happier. My life is better.
Yep.
Tenfold.
It improves quality.
100%, dude.
I'll take quality over quantity any day of the week. I would rather live my best life for 50 years than my worst for 80.
Yeah,
And
bro, I'm not walking around at like 7 out of 10 anymore.
yeah,
It only took it literally 100, boom, holes and walls. Like, I don't do that. I'm not there anymore.
yeah,
And everybody around here is not walking on eggshells. They're happier because I'm happier.
yep.
And I have my shit under control. So it's not just yourself. It affects everybody, especially the people that you're living with. So I'm happier. They're happier. It's just a better fucking life altogether.
I agree, man, and I'm glad for you. So warriorswaymindset.com. You can reach out. I've been on in that seat, and I've talked with Rick. I can tell you, man, it's not a high pressure. It's not a a used car salesman trying to get you to sign. It's just a couple people having conversation. And brother, I appreciate what you guys are doing. And man, it's awesome the help that you're providing.
Yeah, it's an honor back at you too. Like to be able to see what you're doing too is also an honor. And this is why I always say the terminology that's like there is no competition amongst us.
Yeah,
Together we're always stronger. And I believe in what you're doing, and what we're doing coincides with what you're doing because people need all these pieces
yeah, I
and they
agree,
need the
man.
network. And I think that us bringing more awareness to it will connect more leaders together, and we're going to have to start using this technology more as not as a complaint about what's wrong with it, but how do we use this to make it so we unify correctly.
Yeah,
And it's just one of those things where it's growing so fast that the first thing that we do, no different than us as kids, as soon as they're like the internet, what does it do? You can look up anything you want. We're like BOOBIES. Like it's like the first thing you do with the internet is going to be something where like, let me look up some boobies. Like
yep,
it's the first thing, but after a while, you're like, well, actually, you can do taxes and you can actually do this and we can communicate and we can send emails. Like it eventually starts getting into we can be responsible with the tech,
yeah,
but it's gone so fast that, of course, it went into nonsense first. And it turns into the darkest sides of humanity because that's what we do. First thing we type in boobs. It's the
yep,
first thing we do. And then after that, we go, well, what else can it do? It's like, well, you can actually do really beneficial things too.
yep,
It's like, really, fuck me, let's do that, and then you start outgrowing the adolescent phase. But the technology has grown like over 1 trillion folds in the last 30 years.
yeah,
And so, like, it makes sense that we would be inappropriate with it at first. But now it's time to go, okay, well, we looked up boobs enough, time for us to start doing some work.
yeah. And like we said earlier in the show, um, you have to fail first, and it's not that that's a bad thing. That's a learning tool. It's a tool that you need. So, yeah, that makes perfect sense, man. Well, guys, I appreciate y'all coming on. We're gonna go ahead and cut it. And again, like I said, anybody with that, great group of guys, man. So if you need some help, say something. Um, whether you're ready to go full fledged and dive into it, or if you just want to touch the toes, the best thing you can do is at least start from somewhere. And they've got all the tools for you, man. So warriorswaymindset.com. I will link it in this episode will go on Spotify Wednesday. So I will have all the links and everything in there to y'all's Facebook and to anywhere else to make sure because I want people to know about this. So I appreciate it. Y'all take care.